A court-ordered report released last Friday shows that the maniac who massacred 17 innocent people at Marjory Stoneman Douglas High School in Parkland, Florida this past February had actually asked for help from the school, requested help from school officials and the school administration months before his rampage, but was subsequently denied. Now, the report from the Collaborative Educational Network of Tallahassee and states that in the killer's junior year of high school, he had already shown himself to be a potential danger, and as a result, guidance counselors wanted to have him committed. He was given options to continue his education elsewhere, but he was also told that he could stay on at Marjory Stoneman School, and school officials left out one piece of information. If he stayed there, he was entitled to special assistance at the high school. Now, that omission may have proved deadly, since after deciding to stay at MSD, the future murderer was then taken out of any counseling services, stripped of all counseling, and returned to school as a quote-unquote regular student. Now, eventually, he chose to take those other educational options, transferring to a special needs school called Cross Creek. But the report states that the district, quote, did not follow through. And, of course, he fell right through the cracks, dropping out in February of 2017. 3 days later, with all the red flags unreported and the Broward County Police Department doing everything they could to sweep what could have been a record under the rug for this murderer, the murderer then purchased weapons that he would then go on to use in his killing spree a year later. Now, what's amazing about this story, which was originally published by the Daily Beast, they said that the school officials failed to act in accordance with laws governing the treatment of students with disabilities. They also said in his junior year, this murderer had already begun exhibiting a behavior so disturbing that it led to guidance counselors wanting to have him committed. And he sat down with education specialists to discuss his options for further schooling. And then that's when they suggested that he could transfer to Cross Creek. Also, it said that his developmental delays were flagged as early as age 3, but that he had been stripped of all of those counseling services and sort of left to fend for himself. And remember, what we have been exclusively reporting on this program, that school officials were aware. The school board apparently was reportedly, according to Florida media, aware of what was going on in terms of the behavioral instability of the murderer. The administration was completely aware of it. In fact, there had been a Plan B that had been developed as a security protocol for when they would go on field trips, etc., all to accommodate this particular individual who ended up murdering 17 innocent people. All of these things were incredibly well known, and this was also combined with the bad behavior that he continued to exhibit at the school, i.e. bringing bullets in his backpack, which apparently there's no record as to the disciplinary follow-up after that was initially reported, when he would bring other weaponry into the school. And of course, there was no follow-up even after there were multiple reports that he was threatening students through digital means, which, as I first reported and first questioned at the town hall this spring, under Florida law is actionable felony. So a lot of red flags that continued to be ignored, and this as parents are asking more and more questions. And this was the moment at which I brought up, why didn't the sheriff's office actually act on those digital threats? Why didn't they have him Baker acted? Because Florida prosecutors made the case that there was enough evidence to have done so, as he had proven beyond any shadow of a doubt that he was dangerous not just to himself but to other individuals. And furthermore, again, like I said, Florida state statutes it's a felony it's treated as a felony to send death threats and threaten physical harm towards or of individuals through those means, which this individual had done before this awful massacre. So all of these things were known. No answers really from the superintendent, Robert Runcie. By the way, nobody's marched on his offices or anything yet. Nobody's marched towards the Broward County Sheriff's Office yet. But all of these instances and all of these conclusions, not just in this report, but in other studies of this awful situation in which school officials failed to act in accordance with laws governing the treatments of students with disabilities, because that's how this murderer had been classified up to the point when it was offered that he was transferred to Cross Creek. So many questions still remain, and there are so few answers to all of this, but it does feel as though the school's still trying to obscure any real look as to what was the breakdown. I mean, here you have all of these red flags existing up until this time that this massacre was carried out. Nothing was done over it. Why? Why was nothing done? And what can be learned from this so that if you have other instances in another school, anywhere else in America, you can learn from this example. And that's one of the other reasons why we need all of this information to be made public, so that people can learn from what this school district didn't do, what the administration didn't do, what the superintendent didn't do, how the school board didn't act, so that they can take steps to not have a breakdown like this in their school's future.